That voice in our heads. Are you badgered by a never-ending internal monologue? You know, the mental play-by-play commentator who's always watching, judging, and analyzing everything you see and everything you do. And more often than not, this self-talk is critical. And this ongoing negativity generates a cloud of concern and self-doubt. There's no way we can, perform at our best at sports, at our jobs, relationships, artistic endeavors, or anything while we're being stressed out by our own thoughts. But what if you could excel at whatever you want to do unencumbered by negative internal dialogue? Well, an approach to doing just that does exist, and I discovered it for myself 50 years ago. And those very same techniques are being utilized today by the likes of multiple NBA championship player and the current head coach of the Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr, and by 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady, widely considered to be the best football quarterback of all times. This is Desert Simple and the inner game of minimalism. Hi, I'm Michael Marashlian, and welcome back to more Narratives from a Minimalist Outpost. Remember those times when you were totally in the zone, that special state of being where everything is flowing smoothly and perfectly, often referred to as when you're playing or being out of your mind. It might be while you're playing a sport like golf or soccer, or just one of those days when everything's going right. And maybe it happens while you're creating a work of art, like a painting or a sculpture, or maybe you feel it while you're cooking or while you're building something. So what's happening when we're in that zone? How did we get there? And why can't we stay there? I mean, is it possible to spend much more of our lives in that zone? Well, let's go back 50 years. I was 19 years old, and by this time I'd been battling the voice in my head ferociously throughout my teens. I was hearing it most of the time, and it was anything but friendly or reassuring. It was while playing in sporting events that the voice would become its loudest and most aggressive. And I was an avid basketball player. I had a passion for racket sports, and I was in good shape, fairly good at these sports, but my greatest opponents were never other players. No, my greatest adversary was inside me. The voice in my head would attack me relentlessly with self-doubt and ridicule. You dumbass, you suck. You royally messed up that last shot. Why didn't you follow through correctly? I've told you 1,000 times, you loser. And I'm pretty sure you're going to blow this next shot. I mean, we all get that, right? As far as I knew, though, this was just part of the human condition and there was no way around it. And then one day, I stumbled across a simple, incredible technique that unlocked the mind-body connection. A technique for quieting the voice in my head that I employ to this very day. And it was what many believe to be the best sports psychology book, certainly up to that point, ever written. And it's The Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Gallwey. I would soon come to understand that this book was going to have a far greater impact on me than just making me a better tennis player. And years later, I would meet the mastermind who developed the inner game in person. The Inner Game of Tennis, originally released in 1972, was a breakthrough bestseller that exposed the voice in our heads as troublemakers continually sabotaging our innate true potential for playing tennis or for doing pretty much anything. Gallwey was a former Harvard tennis team captain who went on to become a part-time tennis coach. He experienced moments while coaching new students, mostly when he was bored, where he observed that they would learn way faster and perform far better when he applied a minimalist approach to coaching. Less instruction, less nagging about techniques like how to grip the racket, how to position your feet, how to watch the ball, how to follow through, and so on, would consistently produce better results. When we're yelling at ourselves, inwardly or sometimes outwardly, think John McEnroe, just who is it that we're talking to? Well, Tim uncovered that we all have what he calls a self-one, the part of our mind that's always wanting to provide instruction and commentary, call the shots, run the show, take all the credit. Meanwhile, there's a much quieter self-two inside of us that is capable of a far greater performance, but only if it's set free. Now, reading this book set me free in so many ways, far beyond the game of tennis. Simply being aware of the conniving self one and learning how to distract it and release myself two to kick into a higher gear caused my tennis game to improve dramatically with zero extra effort. The inner game approach was like adding a turbocharger. Soon thereafter, I saw that the inner game superpower went far beyond tennis. I mean, I could apply the same techniques to everything I did. As I look back now, I can see that it was essentially the act of applying minimalism to the mind, decluttering the self-constructed mental blocks that prevented me from being the best I could be no matter what I was doing. Now, it wasn't really about self-improvement, but about uncovering the potential that was already there. In the year 2000, more than 25 years after first reading the book, I reached out to Tim Gallwey to thank him for the profound impact he'd had on my life. Now, shockingly, he immediately responded, and we later met at his home, at that time in Agoura Hills, California. He was as genuine and warm a human being as I could have hoped for. We had a terrific connection. Tim shared his experiences of becoming an unexpected guru. He knew that he was sending a message that was far beyond simply playing the game of tennis. He showed me taped national television shows where he taught randomly selected people off the street who had never played this difficult game before how to play all the strokes of tennis in mere minutes. Tim also told me about his publisher's belief that the ceiling for copies sold of any tennis-themed book could be no more than about 20,000 tops. But his book had already sold over 1 million copies. During that initial visit, I noticed that Tim had a fancy backgammon table in the corner. I mentioned that I knew how to play this ancient board game, and in fact, I thought I was pretty good at it. Well, Gallwey went on to crush me at backgammon, but it's an event that I've cherished to this day, despite my miserable defeat. But most importantly, my ragged original copy of the inner game, can you see it? There you go, yeah, finally was signed by its author on this day over a quarter century after I'd bought it. Of course, that's 50 years ago now. And then yeah, here's his signature. And can you see that? Yeah, it says, "For Michael, with great appreciation for your appreciation of the inner game. Enjoy, Tim Gallwey." And this was dated August 3rd, the year 2000. And by the way, Tim had gone on to write other best-selling books, including The Inner Game of Golf. And I would go on to communicate with Tim through the following years and even took a golf lesson from him. My desire to sharpen my own inner game led to my deep dive into biofeedback and meditation, and these are subjects I'll be covering in upcoming episodes. If I could leave you with this desert simple takeaway: whatever you're seeking to accomplish, whether it's in sports or in life, you can perform at a much higher level and even enjoy the process more if you could just quiet the anxiety of your self-one and trust the peace, tranquility, and superior capability of your self-two. You can unlock the power of the inner game yourself by letting go. In tennis and in all of life, relinquishing your attachments can release the true potential that has been within you all along. Thanks for watching.